Yeah, I definitely think it could be a Swedish one, but I think Swedish designers are very anonymous. Swedish designers are not limelight designers, but we have worked with Ann-Sofie Beck, and we have worked with up-and-coming designers, Swedish ones, who have been part, because I think it's really important to know that Absolut has been working with fashion designers who are world famous and artists that are world famous, but at the same time we give back a little bit to the artist industry and to the fashion industry, because, to the fashion community, that is, because we highlight students that are part of the campaign as well. So each year we do an Absolut collection with up-and-coming fashion designers and artists that are not at all known, but we pick from universities or schools that can do their own interpretation of the Absolut brand. So they become stars for a night, or maybe for their lives, you never know. But it's a little bit of giving back to the community from what we get from working with the famous ones. I wasn't there then, but the Absolut Ice Bar started in Jukkasjärvi in the Ice Hotel in 1994, when Yngve Bergqvist, who is a great man, he was the one who founded the Ice Hotel in Jukkasjärvi, built it up with just, I think, 10 beds from the beginning, ice beds. And now it's a big hotel with about 60-65 ice beds where you can go to sleep. And the Ice Bar was there from 1994 and was an institution that was built up every year with a different bottle shape, with a different design every year. And I was talking to Yngve when I came into Absolut in year 2000, and we said, let's make something out of the Absolut Ice Bar in Jukkasjärvi. Let's take it outside of northern Sweden. So we actually took it first to Stockholm to make an Absolut Ice Bar, and brought ice from Jukkasjärvi in the northern part of Sweden in refrigerators down to Stockholm, and put that into a refrigerator room and into a hotel that is in Stockholm that we call the Absolut Ice Bar. And that was a success from the very beginning. People invaded the ice bar. You had to queue up and sign up for 2 weeks in advance. So we could really see, can this be exotic in Stockholm? Then it can be exotic everywhere. So after that we had another ice bar in London, we had another ice bar in Tokyo, and another one in Copenhagen. And then we have brought out the Absolut Ice Bar. It's an experience, an absolute experience that you can bring out all around the world to experience what the Absolut brand is about. You have these big gloves, having your ice glass in the big gloves and trying to drink your vodka from this ice glass on the same time. We had different designers doing it. It was always one of the designers from the Ice Hotel being there, but then we could have local designers that can come in and do their interpretation of the Absolut bottle and the Ice Hotel in each and every location. But the concept was the same. It was a refrigerator room with ice from the northern part of Sweden. So even in Tokyo, we delivered ice from the Jukkasjärvi river to Tokyo to build the ice bar. Even the ice glasses are made there. Well, I think you must see that as an honor that people are copying Absolut, because if you look at pictures how the shelves looked like in 1979 and how they look now, Absolut has had a great impact on how vodka is delivered and how it's packaged. I think a lot of companies and brands have been trying to copy the Absolut concept. I think that's really fantastic that the concept is so unique, so you really can't do that. I think it's also challenging us to move forward, that we see other brands copying Absolut. I can see that even though I don't work with Absolut Vodka any longer, I can see that they are moving forward, they are challenging communication, they are challenging the consumers, and they're always one step ahead of consumers, trying to find the way forward to connect with the future consumer. Yeah, I guess it's really my baby. I came into the Royal Swedish Opera from Absolut, And having worked with a global brand that is represented in 125 markets, going into one theater that is so situated in Stockholm, that has 135,000 audience of 135,000 a year. It's a very, very different task. But the opera in Stockholm was very, very traditional. It's a royal institution that is governed by the king and owned by the state. So I came in actually to change, because they saw the opera as a very old-fashioned, very traditional institution that did not reach out to new audiences. Almost always full, but the audiences was very homogenic, only to be a little bit hard on the audience, very rich people, very cultural connoisseurs, and not inviting and open to other audiences. So I was actually asked, how can we connect to new consumers, and how can we make the opera more of a concern to all people, because it is owned by the Swedish state and by the Swedish people as taxpayers, and about 90% of what the cost is for each performance is paid by the taxpayers. So it's really something that you as a Swedish person should take advantage of, because it's paid by your government. So what I did was actually, I have to find out who out there can have an interest in what we are doing, and I must know who are the loyals, and I must know who are the prospects. So I went out to do a market survey among consumers of culture, and then in this survey you had to be either interested in culture and music, or in dance and music, because the opera also has the Royal Swedish Ballet. And we found that there were 8 different groups out there behaving in very different ways. They were even driven by social driving forces. The reason for coming was social, or it was inner directed. So people were coming for themselves or for socializing. And we found 2 different loyal groups and 3 prospect groups. And we worked a lot with the loyal groups not to lose them. They were, as we had thought, very loyal to the opera, having subscriptions to it, coming from childhood, being born into the opera almost. And we were looking at the prospects, how to reach them. And we could see that among the prospects we had a very, very high perception. We had a high perception when talking about the Royal Swedish Opera. I thought, oh, that's a great place, I'd love to go there, but I don't go. And the reason for them not coming was that the awareness, when doing some culture, they didn't even think about the opera. They thought about theater, they thought about movies, they thought about concerts, but they didn't think about opera. So it was for us thinking of how can we increase the awareness of the Royal Swedish Opera among these prospect groups. And what we did was actually to know what were they interested in. And Stockholm being one of the highest percentage of single individual households in the world, actually. About 60% of all households are single in Stockholm. And also we could see a trend that the dating was something that was really becoming popular via the internet and via sites and all that. So we actually had single nights at the opera. And that made it for the opera. We had never had that much PR for the opera, ever. I think some performances with Birgit Nilsson or with Jussi Björling, one of the famous opera singers, 30 years ago had that. But we had so much PR for these single nights. So what actually we did was that we did only PR for this night, and within 2 days they were complete. 3 nights complete with these single nights. And we had people from 18 up to 70 doing these single nights.